How are you guys feeling heading into championship, second straight year for this program?
You know, it feels really good. The team, as you can see, is really relaxed headed in because I think everybody knows now what to expect. They know what the championship looks like. They know the format. They know how grueling it is playing 8 rounds over 7 days. There's not going to be any surprises. So I think that brings them some comfort, having been there before, and there are not a lot of lineups at the national championship that can say they have 4 returners that played in the Elite 8.
What are some of the lessons you learned from playing here last year that you can bring to Chicago?
That you can control your energy even when you have to play at 7 a.m. after being here for a pairings party up until 9 o'clock. There are things that you can do to control your energy level, whether it's power posing that we tell the girls, or just doing some jumping jacks on the tee, getting yourself energized and a little bit more engaged, even though when you're tired 6 or 7 rounds in. Some of the things that we learned, really, that we can play, and I think they know what it takes, and it's not going to take unbelievable golf. It's just going to take solid golf from the Oregon Ducks.
Do you have a favorite memory from last year's as far as you guys got? Do you have a favorite moment when you look back on last year's success?
When we look back on last year, really that day, the stroke play day, the final stroke play day, when all the scores were coming in, and Kay Cockrell from the Golf Channel interviewed me over there on number 7. What hole is that?
Is that during the late or no?
No, I mean, the 9s are flipped.
Yeah.
16, thanks, Rob. Well, Kay Cockrell interviewed me early on, and she asked me what it's going to take, and I just said, we just want to post a number. Because we were first out that day, let everybody come chase after us, and that's what we did. Mm-hmm. But coming in, I have to say, I remember Kathleen Santoso, she'll say it well, duffing a chip on number 8. It was something that went viral on Golf Channel's online videos. And then, a couple mistakes coming down the stretch, and us just cutting it a little too close. So that was really fun, but it was also gratifying to be in and having that number posted and not being out on the course stressing over it. So we were in the clubhouse with a score that was final, and we have an opportunity to do that again this week because we're first out with Clemson and Michigan State in the first pairing in the national championship.
Is there any concern level for you coming off the Pac-12s, or did you have a pretty good sense that the team was going to bounce back at regionals?
You know what? We finished 9th at the Pac-12 championship last year also, I believe. The Pac-12 is so strong in women's golf. There might be 4 or 5 teams in the top 12 right now in the Pac-12. So anybody in the conference has everybody in the conference actually had a good shot at going to postseason. I think all 11 teams were represented in postseason, and not every conference can say that. So there were just some things that we needed to clean up after Pac-12s. Pac-12s was on a course that was unlike anything we'd ever seen. It was on in windy conditions. The gusts were up to 40, 50 miles an hour. And it was a shock to our system, I'll admit. We don't get very much wind here in the valley. So that shock to our system of that wind in Tucson was the worst thing that happened to us for Lubbock, Texas, because the girls got to Lubbock and they were like, we know how to play in this. We've seen it before. And now they're like, Coach, is it going to be windy in Chicago? I said, it's called the Windy City for a reason. So.
Where does this course rank, this week's course, compared to other places you've been this season? What challenges does it present? Yeah, in Chicago.
This week's course, I think the challenge it presents is that it's so private, no one really knows much about it. I heard that there are only 50 members at Rich Harvest Farms. It's out an hour outside of Chicago. I think a couple good things is that the climate will be probably pretty similar to here. The grass will be pretty similar. So those were a couple things that we had to adjust to in both Tucson and Lubbock that'll be easier transitions for us this week.
Is there any less pressure not being at home? Does that contribute to the free and easy vibe among the girls?
Rob, last year when we were at regionals, Casey Martin said it best. He said, I felt like I was in the fetal position at regionals last year when that, there's all these people back at home that put in all this work and finances to host a national championship, So there is a little bit of freedom in that. And there was probably also some freedom because we didn't have a great regular season. No expectations in that way. You know, Marcella, you talked about the underdog mentality a little bit, and she said, "Coach, after we finished play on the final day, she said, Coach, we were the definition of underdog. 12 seed, coming in, nothing to lose. Let's go get it."
Had you talked about that before the tournament?
We actually didn't. You know, we really try to do everything the same as what we do all year. We just refined a lot of course management mistakes. They really cleaned up their wedge games. Their par 5 play was outstanding in Lubbock. I don't know if you saw, Marcella led the field in par 5 scoring. She was 9 under last week. We were 21 under as a team, and that was something we've been struggling with all year. So par 5s, you combine wedge game and course management on those par 5s, and you were dangerous.
Did you have any concern in the springtime, because your guys' rankings had kind of dropped a bit? Did you have any concern that you would actually get to this point?
You know, our team has had a pretty good mentality that it all starts over in postseason. And when you see women's basketball let it start over in postseason, it's pretty inspiring. But they've had that pretty good mentality of being able to wipe the slate clean when NCAAs come around. So I wasn't really concerned because they knew that they had the ability and certainly the experience.
Can that also kind of be, you know, attested to the experience that this team has too, with 4 returners, like you said?
You know, we really struggled finding the right 5 this year because there are some players that just aren't as strong in practice as they are in competition, and that's Marcella and Kelsey, and they know that. There's something about them that's just obviously not as engaged in practice, but you get them in competition and they're gamers. So we had a hard time finding the right lineup. Kelsey came off an injury last year. Stanford in February was her first tournament back in a year. Marcella had mono, so she didn't do anything for a month and a half, and now she's leading the team in the weight room on the golf course. So it's been a pretty neat thing to see it all come together.